Okay, so you all know me. Pardon? And I majored in art history in undergrad, and I did the practical, I became a librarian and studied public administration. I did all the practical things instead of my true love, which is art. And probably my favorite period of art history is Renaissance art. And I've been to Italy a few times. The first time I visited San Marco, it's in Florence, and it is a museum that is not as well known, of course, as the Uffizi or the Accademia. But it's a place where you can get away from the mobs and the crowds and the selfie sticks and the people taking photos of the paintings and moving on without even looking at them. So I first saw it in 2004. My daughter was studying archaeology in Orvieto. And so my friend and I took about 10 days to visit her and to see Rome and spend time in Orvieto, which is a great, well, you've been there, good wine. And besides, Fra Angelico has paintings in the cathedral there that are quite stunning. Siena and Florence. And then I returned in 2015, where the official guide came from, with my husband. We were on a cruise with two friends, and the cruise port is Livorno, so it's like 2 or 3 hours away from Florence. So they give you 4 hours to, see this beautiful city of Florence, which you cannot possibly do. And streets were so crowded, and I said, I know where we're going to go. We're going to go to San Marcos because we can get in. We don't have to stand in line. And sure enough, it's kind of north of the Accademia. So you walk past all the lines, and we got right in. And but the reason I love this museum, well, it's unique, but my art history professor in undergrad, one of her favorite Renaissance painters was Fra Angelico. And so that's why I knew I could get there, we beelined there in 2004 and why we went back in 2015. So let me tell you a little bit about San Marco. It's a religious complex, and it has a church and a convent. The convent is now a museum, a national museum. The current structure was built over another monastery, the Silvestrine order. Has anybody heard of that? Maybe. I don't know too much about it, but that first convent and church were built in the 1200s, and the Silvestrine order had kind of fallen out of favor, especially with the Medicis. And Cosimo de' Medici really wanted a Dominican community in Florence. And this was like 1430s, excuse me. And so that's what he got. And the other friars moved elsewhere in Florence, and they built a new monastery and church. And Cosimo selected or commissioned his favorite architect, Michelozzo, who also constructed the palace, Medici Palace or Palazzo, and other structures in Florence. So the Dominican community from Fiesole moved to San Marco, and one of those friars was Fra Angelico. And this was just a wonderful opportunity for him because Florence was really the artistic center of Italy at that time. The Cosimo really, and Fra Angelico, I'm getting ahead of myself. The museum has a few claims to fame. One is the Fra Angelico's murals, which we are going to study in a few minutes. Of course, the Medici's support and financial and spiritual support of the convent. But also there was an infamous Sanarola was a prior there later in the 1400s or 1480s. So there are two cells that were his later on that have no frescoes in them. They were used as storage, and his cape, I believe, is framed in one of the undecorated friar cells. So let me tell you a little bit about Fra Angelico, and then we can move on to some of his art. So he did come from Fiesole. I really studied all these pronunciations, and if I'm messing it up, please forgive me. But he had, prior coming to Florence, he had built a reputation as a painter. Vasari, the one who wrote the lives of the artists, said he actually studied in illumination when he first became a friar. But he had also done some churches, and primarily in the Gothic style. There were some, more wealthy donors, so the colors were bright, similar to the paintings we saw 2 weeks ago that Amy showed us. So the move to San Marco was just, a wonderful opportunity for him. And the Cosimo wanted him to decorate the convent. At least according to Vasari. So we're never quite sure how much of some of this is true, because Vasari had his famous artists that he wrote about and elaborated on their lives, I guess. So Fra Angelico was a very devout and pious friar, and he was asked to paint murals, individual murals in 43 of the cells of the dormitory. And these were like personal, devotional frescoes that each individual monk could study when he was in his own cell. And that's what makes it so unique and special. It's kind of like your own icon in your room, but these were beautiful murals. And they, of course, depict the life and passion of Christ. And it is one of the largest Renaissance cycles of paintings that exist. It's really, really a unique monument to Christ, and monument to Christ, and really important in the study of early Renaissance art, because you'll see both some Gothic motives and then moving into Renaissance, the realism and the perspective and kind of more massive bodies and landscape and architecture in these murals. And the frescoes, and we'll just discuss about it, but just say they have a limited range of color. There's a lot of detail of landscape and light. And I think we'll have a lot to discuss about the use of space and perspective in these. So, and after we get to the frescoes, just finishing up on Fra Angelico, he was called to the Vatican after painting these cells, and he painted them from like 1438 to 1445. He went to the Vatican and painted several chapels there. One of the chapels was since destroyed by one of the popes, but there are paintings left. And he was also at Orvieto. And he was, according to Vasari, he was offered an archbishopship, is that what you call it? And he turned it down because he only wanted to remain a devout friar, and he really took his vows of poverty and asceticism, and that's what he did the rest of his life. And he was blessed by Pope John Paul in 1982. So he is a saint too. So.
Wasn't Fra Bartholomew there at that same time?
Yes, he was. Yeah, and I just took for simplification. Yes, yes, he was. And the museum itself has other paintings for sure. And I just thought for this presentation we should talk about his paintings and basically the murals in the cells, the frescoes in the cells. Yes, and then there's one room that has probably the largest collection of his paintings that they have gathered throughout Italy. So a lot of it you can see it's called the Pilgrim's Hospice, where it has a lot of his Fra Angelico's paintings. Okay, let us go to the paintings. I am really nervous, and I apologize.
Don't be nervous.
Okay. So this, how many of you have seen this before? Yeah, almost everyone. This is not in the cell. This is in the foyer as you enter the dormitories that are about to get in the corridor where all the cells are. So this was the Annunciation. I said Christmas cards with this one because it's one of my favorite Renaissance paintings of the Annunciation. So does anybody want to comment on it based on what I?
Imagine, I just imagine this being in a foyer and how that would change the space there. That must have been really fascinating to see in person, how it kind of transformed that space.
Yeah. So what do you think of the colors? Are they?
Now they're very different, aren't they? It's so
Well,
striking.
muted, I mean, they're not reds and blues.
No,
But
none
the
of
black-
none of-
They're very clear.
The black stands out really strong.
How big is that painting?
who has the guy that might?
I'll look and see if I can find that.
Okay. Are they? And they're real solid too.
Yeah, stripes.
And how about the figures themselves? Yeah,
I love that
Very
beautiful blessing. It's almost like a namaste.
yeah.
Both of them are blessing each other.
Yeah.
The crossing the hands and leaning forward, that towards each other, yeah.
This is painting on plaster.
Yes. All these that I'll show you are
Yeah.
paintings at plaster.
I love the name.
And the color.
I don't, as much as I've seen that picture, I've never seen the wings.
What I find most interesting is what appears to be, if I'm seeing it correctly, is this, these structural supports. Which
Right.
I assume were,
Yeah, those are
were there when
Corinthian,
he
yeah.
painted it, and that would imply to me that, I wouldn't imagine they would have been built with them in place, they may have been there. as a
They have
reserve.
cloisters with arches, and I didn't really look in their pictures in the guide and, what kind of capitals they have on it. But yeah, those are really detailed, aren't they?
Well, I'm surprised that they were needed, but they were, and well, architecturally or structurally.
Also the province, that are keeping things together.
That's what I was speaking of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I call them steel.
Oh, I see what you're talking about
Yeah,
them.
they would have been iron, but.
Oh, the iron. Okay, I thought you were talking about the columns.
Maintain
So-
the
Well,
integrity of the
Yeah.
work.
So the columns aren't painted, the columns are really there.
There are columns in the cloister, but no, these are painted. This
Those
is,
are painted,
this
and they,
is,
and
yeah.
you did the detail with the.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, he went through each column with them.
Right.
Cool. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Thank you, Gray.
In the
You see the-
book, you can tell it looks like it's blue. Mary's robe.
It's more
which is-
blue.
She's often
Yeah.
associated with the color blue,
Yeah.
but it looks black in that particular edition. I can't find how big it is.
Okay.
How big did it seem when you were standing in front of it?
Oh,
it took a whole wall.
no, it wasn't that, well. Yeah, I can't remember. I'm sorry.
We were there.
What? I was there, 7 years ago, so.
I find it interesting in the hair color, both of the eagle and I know in North Italy, it's a lot of blonde.
Yeah.
People with. That way, certainly, you wouldn't expect Mary.
Well, is that her hair though?
Definitely not.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, but like all paintings here, they don't have a Middle Eastern flavor or geography. They're putting it in Renaissance Europe.
Yeah.
So the people are Renaissance Europe people.
Isn't this amazing, that like something you would see today?
Yes.
The picket fence.
Yeah, instead of the tree trunks that we saw 2 weeks ago, there is I think that's, a structure. What'd you think of the architecture?
And it looks like almost like nails or cruise. I mean, sure was. Wonder what it all together.
Well, my eye keeps drawn into the second room with the little window.
Mhm.
Yeah, that painting or
That
whatever.
perspective there.
What is that?
Yeah, mine too.
Mine
too.
It's a window
What is it?
Yeah.
in the little picture in the book. It looks like a window.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
definitely a window.
Well,
Is
this
there
is
a
a
couch
window
or a
here,
sofa on the floor there?
and there's a floor. It looks like it's an inner room of some sort.
And it needs a little work, a little restoration, all the cracks on the lower part there.
I just think about how I would feel entering a space and looking at that as I'm entering the space. Would it give me, what kind of a feeling would I enter and continue on past this?
Past the,
rest,
forward,
or would it be a settling thing for me or an uplifting thing for me? Which is what the artist wants to,
I don't think so.
or what I've been impressed. Walking in.
I'm delighted with the depiction of them. They look like they're showing deference to each other
yes.
and with their arms crossed, as was mentioned earlier, because in my mind, I think of this angel, and always the angels start with fear not.
Yeah.
Fear not, because their presence can be pretty intimidating, it seems. But I love the gentleness.
And the halos on both.
Well, for the entryway, that's perfect because it's a monastery or a convent or a church. It all begins with the Annunciation. If it wasn't for the Annunciation, they wouldn't even have a church there.
Right.
I was thinking it's kind of interesting that now that the window has my attention, it's like this is like Mary's experience, right? Looking at, but if you're looking into the window.
Oh, Yeah, that's,
I like it that it shows the grass.
the landscapes are wonderful.
The other
The
little
trees.
architectural detail, you see the half round arches, except for one of them.
Yeah, one of them.
One of them, no.
Different. That's right. When I go over.
And think how hard that would be to paint that.
Yeah.
To get that perspective right and get the shadowing just right for all those arches. It's just amazing.
The way it's painted, it just pulls you in.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a perspective to that.
Yeah, and yet you're not all the way in. We are looking at it from a distance. There's that, we're outside of the arches. We're not in there, in that space.
But visually, the arch that Pete was
Yeah,
just
it's
talking
like
about,
asking
There's a
you to
little-
come in.
I think it's a fish.
See, just below the.
Where is the fish?
Where?
There's a symbol.
Oh,
there.
right there.
Yeah.
Oh. Fish to me.
Can you see that in the reproduction in the book more clearly? Okay.
That might make it.
I agree. Well, it's all like three different pieces, but then it looks like the head and then it goes to the.
So you could look at it a long time and never get into church.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, or get to the cells.
Okay.
I have details of the Mary and Gabriel, and maybe we can go to the. So that's
That's Gabriel.
Gabriel, yeah. Yeah, I thought it's
Beautiful.
I just love the way he or she, Gabriel, is looking at Mary, but it's not frightening to me.
Yeah,
And
that
it's
one is-
very
doesn't look
calming.
like-
calming. And there's Mary.
Mary looks a little leery, but not frightened.
She looks inquisitive.
Yeah, that's a good.
Somebody was about to have a light change.
Yeah.
Pretty calm.
do this after the angel explained it.
Remember walking down the hall.
Back to derail for a moment.
Okay.
It's trustworthy.
Pardon?
Trustworthy.
Yeah, yes, I think that's good.
So Paula, do you know what they have to do to preserve these
I,
things?
I don't know if they've really,
What was the question again?
Oh, how they're preserved, because they, you know, they're, what? 700 years old.
do you know, Amy, at all?
They're clean, but it's really
Yeah.
complicated.
Be clean. Too much, yeah.
Right, and that's part of, I think, the mutedness of the colors. I always wonder how the original, the original.
Right, yeah, but I don't think they were real bright
I think they were
because,
super bright.
yeah, because I think that well, I know Fra Angelico never retouched or went back to correct any of these murals because he thought they were divinely inspired, so. And so I thought that was interesting, so, but from what I've read is they did stay away from bright colors. It was more, you know, pastels like mauves instead of bright red and kind of olive greens and then black and white like the Dominican robes too. So he wasn't going to, he did paint paintings before and afterward with the bright colors. And of course that took money from donors to have the blue paints were quite expensive and certainly the gold would have been
Maybe
too.
that's why the eyes are blue.
Oh, that could be, yeah. But it has probably, this is probably not how it looked for sure originally.
And the colors may have faded too.
Yeah.
You can look at it head paint.
But I mean, it was probably restored.
No, that didn't look like it's restored with all the cracks. They were
Well,
done
I
all.
mean, in restoration, don't they try to leave things like that?
It just usually, as opposed to like a painting on a canvas, you can do a lot more.
What's the medium? Is it egg tempera or is it?
Done on wet plants.
I don't know if wet plaster, he put a base or something. Yeah.
Difficult. Fast.
Well, would you like to see one of the frescoes in one of the cells?
Yes.
How were they,
So-
how they chose, did they were assigned rooms?
I don't know. I
They
kept
have like
looking
that.
about how that would be, because this was your own devotional mural for, you know, your personal one. I just can't imagine. What would that be? Cool. How cool. So this is an Annunciation in one of the cells. So I want to show you how it differed a little bit. Any comments on
The
this?
same artist.
Yes.
And again, with the namaste. And
Now I can't,
And there's sort of stripes.
and there's
on
a
it.
saint in the background and I forgot to make a note of it.
Can you make it
Kind of
bigger?
faded. What?
A praying person, would that be the cell? Probably not.
No, it is and I forgot to write it down. I'll,
Can you
maybe
hone in on the?
Becky
praying
can
person
find
a
it,
little?
yeah.
I can't do anything with this.
Yeah, the stripes, there's sort of stripes still on the wings, but they're not at all the same.
And I was struck, it's kind of the shape of the cells. The cells are kind of have those arches in them.
Well, how big would those be?
Pretty tiny.
Yeah, no, they're probably, yeah, I'm trying to look at this room, maybe a quarter of the size. But there's a window in Two, yeah.
I love
Have
the
you been there,
difference.
Amy?
I have not.
Oh, okay.
I love the difference. This interior is so much more close, just like a cell.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
And the other one, it's just like the corner.
So it is Saint Peter of Verona, one of the Dominican proto martyrs.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Who's in the background? Yes.
One of the ones that we saw. Walk in the room, there it is on the far wall. So as you walk in
Yeah.
the cell,
You see it, yeah,
you see it right there.
yeah.
And the windows.
It's always to the side, kind
Yeah.
of, yeah, it's not, so there isn't direct sunlight on
Yeah.
these murals, or there wouldn't be many murals
Does
left.
the windows look out on the common?
On the cloister,
the
yeah,
courtyard.
there's, there, yeah, the courtyard.
And this one, Mary, what is she? On that bench,
She appears to be kneeling with a book
Yeah.
in her.
it looks like her feet from here.
And I
No, I
wouldn't
think
have
it's-
thought she would be literate, but perhaps that's referring to the word fathers. And you put it in the painting.
But she's often depicted in Annunciation scenes with a book reading,
That's.
especially in the medieval and Renaissance, right? I mean, were there before that? Was that still true?
Writing.
She's not early Christian art. We don't see her very much.
Yeah.
But this time and in the late, and she becomes really important in theology.
Were there even books?
No, it's not historically correct.
And this seemed a little more Gothic than sturdy Renaissance. I mean, I think Mary does look more a little
But it is,
ethereal than
it is,
solid.
You're
but-
right, yeah, that's true.
but it is 3 dimensional.
Mhm. Oh, that's, yeah. And
So
that's
it's
the
not-
Renaissance influence,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because 1400s.
1430, yeah. Well, he painted these murals 1938 to 40.
14.
Yeah, why do I keep saying that?
Well, they read.
To about 1445,
They
yeah,
rediscovered the Roman 3-dimensional.
right,
aspect
right. And
of
that's,
painting. But
and
medieval
that's the
was
kind
just
of the difference
2-dimensional.
between medieval art and
Yeah.
the, the strong perspective, the
difference.
severe kind of. Any other thoughts?
I love it.
And the wings are very stylish.
Yes, they're a little different, aren't they?
Yeah,
They're,
with the long.
yeah,
And also Gabriel on this one looks more feminine.
I wish we could, yeah.
You've got a definitely non-binary thing going on, yeah.
Hair's a little darker.
And the halos are gold.
The halos are gold. yeah.
Is there a close-up of the faces?
That I couldn't find any.
Well, I just looked on Google and Gutenberg's Bibles were printed in 1455.
Yeah.
So it would appear to be contemporaneous with the painting. Perhaps that was something that Fra Angelico was trying to tell us. Holy cow, there's this new thing.
That could be.
There are
But remember, he was an illuminator, so he must have illuminated some manuscripts too prior to arriving.
He
here.
was born.
He was born in 1395. So, yeah,
Holly, his name, Angelico, obviously. was part of that.
no, and his name, and I left that out, Giovanni, some,
Right.
Yeah.
Why did they start calling him Angelico?
Father's father, right?
yeah,
Right.
father, because of these paintings, I think, and the,
Does he know
yeah.
of her as angels? Like,
Yeah,
Oh,
his
yeah.
angels and, yeah, and how devout and pious he really was. He did not really want anything to do with being,
Well, they all took ecclesiastical names when they went into the convent. or the
Right, true.
monastery.
true.
Right, but they're very descriptive of it.
Yeah, right, right. Next slide. Have a few more. Okay, here's a nativity. So we talked a lot about 2 weeks ago, the nativity that Amy showed. What do you think about this one?
A lot more color.
And this, yeah, particular, but they're somber
Rich,
colors.
yeah, it's rich, it's somber and very, photo brush. Which is-
Animals
No.
are like
It looks like the woman on the far left has a crown. I assume yeah. I assume the first woman, Mary.
Yeah. And the crown of the halo of Jesus is different.
That's the whole body. isn't it?
Well, yeah. What's the significance of the four angels up on the roof?
Angels we've heard on high.
Yeah, right, or the herald angels sing.
Angels we have heard on
Whatever.
That's after the
But
music.
I'm not sure of the saint on the far right side, but remember how solid in some of the medieval stuff, the saints and the angels are really up in the sky and not solidly stationed in the fourth.
Two saints are worshiping.
And his tonsure, is that,
Yeah,
his tonsure is very distinctive of that time and
that
and
order.
that order.
Yeah.
Right. So it's definitely a modern depiction.
Right.
Joseph in the back there.
I am struck by I don't know if it's a wall or the fence that's blocking the animals. That
Oh.
seems such a,
It's just,
Well,
yeah,
that's the
but
way
it's
they
interesting. It kind of blocks I mean, I guess the perspective is back to
Well, they
the
would have
animals.
walled the animals
Yeah.
off to some extent.
Yeah.
because It was so smelly back there.
But I thought that was an interesting technique there.
That's not what we see usually.
No.
We see them all. All straw.
In fact, Jesus.
Maybe the-
straw is just laying on the floor.
tried to do the
Looks like it's- Well,
Tried to do
there's
that.
some straw in
drawings of
Jesus.
the animals. We didn't like them, so we just put the walls up.
That
in
could
front.
be, yeah.
But They're very prominent though,
Yeah,
so that's odd.
Well,
but what material?
it looks like a woven grass or something that's turned black.
Under Jesus.
But there are no sheep. So we're-
The shepherds hadn't
Shepherds weren't
come
there
yet,
yet.
I don't
There's
think.
no shepherd.
Yeah.
It's a heavenly chorus.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. To the right is some kind of a building or something. is there?
Oh, those are kind of rocks, I think. You'll see in some others.
Yeah. Kind of strange.
Yeah, but it's very typical of a lot of these
Yeah.
frescoes that he made.
I'm gonna check in with our Zoom folks for a second. See if anybody's got any questions or comments or anything. Carolyn or Judy? Carolyn?
I guess on that one, my eye is drawn back toward the horse and the cow, more than it is to baby Jesus, who doesn't look like a baby. And there was another nativity scene we saw where the baby was like on the floor. And that seems startling to me. I don't know if it's as much about Jesus as it is about just the event. And Mary and Joseph, I don't know. It's a little, it's slightly unsettling.
Anybody else have that feeling?
I came up to see, I couldn't see Jesus.
Oh, yeah, because it's, so this is still has a lot of medieval aspects to it. You know, although the architecture, I think, is very solid.
Did you have something to share? Yeah.
I was gonna say, agree with Charlotte with the baby, at least looking at it on my screen here, which isn't all that big, but definitely that it looks that he's naked and it looks like he's just hovering, like he's not even laying on the floor. There's some painting there around him and I can't tell what it is. Like, is that dry straw or I don't know, or something that's faded? I can't tell, but it just looks,
That,
he's just floating in midair, close to the ground. I don't know.
is it in the book, this nativity? Can you tell what the? Could be straw, yeah.
Some straw. Yeah.
Just floating.
It's like there's a shadow under him. It's like he's levitating.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
And that
does.
baby is, looked like about a year old.
that's pretty
Yeah.
typical. Even
Toddler. Yeah.
So, you know, I think the temptation is to say, whoa, they sure got that wrong. But why do you think they would have the Christ child floating a little bit, and why would they have an older child? Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good question, Laurie.
And as you said, he felt divinely inspired. He never went back to touch it because this was, so it wasn't the artist. It was his inspiration, which was so interesting to think about.
Do you know, did the monk who slept in this cell, did he have any input into what was painted, or did it have any reflection on the man sleeping in that particular cell?
Yeah, I do not know, and I didn't read anything about that. I don't think they know. Remember, this is still pretty early. There wasn't
It
a
would
lot.
surprise me.
Pardon?
It would surprise me.
Okay.
And they probably, maybe they moved around. I don't know. I don't know enough about the monastic, or if they died, who moved in.
And this is a painting of Cam.
No, it's in his.
Is it on the wall?
Lori, I love what you're talking about, because when I can't paint at all, but when I think about how would I pick someone who is both divine and holy, how could, that's me.
yeah.
Really challenging.
How do you make a body and God at the same time? God incarnate, it kind of pulls up all that stuff.
Vulnerability.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
The vulnerability of God incarnate, yeah. I can imagine meditating on that in myself. Days, months, you know.
I really resonate with
The cow, yeah.
because it's like kind of like looking
But back there, it looks to me like there's almost an egg that Jesus is in with the, light above and then, shadow around him.
Yeah.
And not a manger.
No.
Halo.
No major works.
Should we move on?
It's like that he's bringing, because it's depicted to me in my age.
Yeah.
So it's a living story, not an old story.
Yeah.
It's a contemporary story of this.
Yeah. Okay, this is the baptism. So you mentioned the landscape, Pete, the rocks or what it looked like, and are the caves. This is fascinating to me in many ways, but I want to hear your comments about it.
It's very weird to me because I saw when Jesus was baptized. It was so completely unlike.
Is this like satanic figures?
Where are you pointing?
I'm pointing
Right
out
up. That little glow of light.
In this area?
Yeah, right, gee, right. Just right up. Yeah, it almost looks from here, like there's a paint or devil with dark eyes and what looks like a catch it.
Goes right to the wilderness, right after the baptism.
Yeah.
Tempted by the devil. This baby.
It looks like a personage. I mean, it's
Yeah, those, the
Little
trees.
shaft of light.
Well, there's a dove in the middle.
Yes,
of
in
that
the
brown
middle,
cloud.
yeah.
Oh, the dove.
There's the dove here, yeah.
Funny shaped cloud.
Those look like trees to me.
Yeah, these little guys here are trees, but the wilderness is kind of that black area behind there.
I find this almost surreal. It's kind of a contemporary, yeah. And I think the landscape is just as important as the figures in this. I wonder why.
So different.
The other thing is, Jesus is standing in the water, being baptized. But it's like he's standing in the hole in the river.
He's a lot taller.
That would have been, that part would be wrong.
Yeah, it's pretty tall.
Any other thoughts on this? Yeah, isn't it?
And also the Jordan River doesn't look like that.
No, it's
Well, and
Well, he didn't
At
know,
all.
he'd never been there.
Huh?
He didn't know, he'd never been there.
Right.
it's changed course
It's pretty flat.
since that time. And used to, it would be dry a lot of the time of the year, so you had to have baptisms at the time when there was a lot of rain.
It didn't have the hills
And there's no hill there, it's flat there, yeah.
flattened.
So I wonder why Fra Angelico would put hills like that in his movie.
Because that's what's around Firenze, around Florence.
Is it?
All the geography is all medieval.
Yeah.
Renaissance.
Oh, yeah.
Italy, everything, buildings and they didn't know exactly what took place. They didn't try.
but
The
they
thing that
wanted
interests
people.
me about this composition is that the movement in the image goes from this here to the river to this. And it seems like that river of light that's always flowing and never stopping is partly what's depicted here. And Christ's both immersion in it, and again, though, you've got him standing outside of it a little.
Now he's standing on top of the water.
Yeah.
But those little black things up there, those are caves in the mountains.
Okay.
Trees to
Okay.
me.
Okay, well, that would be. Oh, did you get?
No. But see, all the mountains have caves in them around there, but of course, there's no mountains right where Jesus was baptized.
So again, though, what does it make you, how does it make you think about God? How does it bring you closer? Because we're doing this comparison between what we would see as 21st century people and what is in the image. But to do justice to the image, imagine entering this holy space, and what is the artist trying to tell you? What is the Holy Spirit through the artist trying to tell you? Because I think there's a lot that, you know, you've got that image of, here's that figure, that Christ figure. I mean, he looks so alive, so human in this. And like you say, tall though, you know, taller than the surrounding folks. And very clearly in the eye of God, where the dove is coming and saying, this is my beloved.
And the purity of the white, almost gossamer clothing.
Yeah.
That very, and we, children at baptism are often dressed in white.
John the Baptizer looks very aggressive.
Well, what is he doing? Again, get into it from the artist's point of view. What's the artist trying to tell us about John there? What's he trying to say about this guy?
What it speaks to me is but the power of this moment, which must have been overwhelming to witness what it was.
Yeah.
But then also because of that, when it speaks to me, the dove above, and this is my son, he says, what comes next is an answer to that call. And it's not easy, and it's never easy for any of us. You know, Misha's been reaching on that, we saw a lot, right? But with that river of life, it's all.
But why does John have to be so aggressive?
That's the wrong question, John. The question is more, what's Fra Angelico trying to tell us by making him that way? What's he trying to say?
I think the eye dismisses John very quickly, even though he's a different color. To me, the eye goes right to Christ and the dove and takes the baptizer out of the picture.
Well, but all of these images are depictions of what is written in the Bible. And the artists are interpreting those words and what the meaning are.
In
the whole-
Hebrews,
The whole thing
Yeah.
here is the dove representing the word of God and blessing what is happening.
But what does John represent?
So he's a guy who's like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
he's gotta reach out of himself to pour.
Yeah.
He's not standing solidly in himself. He's gotta just get up there and reach out, you know, and do it that way because it's something that he's
He
not really part of.
he
Because Jesus
recognizes-
himself has said, the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than John the Baptist. So he's reaching into this from outside,
You know,
a little off balance, a little precarious, but
That's how I think of John.
Yeah, I do too.
He's not a subtle kind of God.
Nope, not at
not
all.
hardly.
I like the dove, it looks like it's in the middle of the rose. Rose is opening
Yeah,
up
yeah.
and revealing more stuff all the time.
But I liked your comment, Lori, because usually with perspective, you look to the rear or the background. And this, the dove kind of leads you right back to Jesus. To the foreground. So it's kind of reverse with the river too.
It's interesting that this is kind of the beginning of Jesus' journey. right? This is the end of John.
Yes,
This is the
Yes,
final-
it
this
is.
His
It
final
is.
act.
yeah.
And our story was to bring.
Yeah, yeah.
That was like the culmination. right?
Just a few.
This is still, this is it.
That is so true, yeah. This is the culmination for him. This is
Passing
the whole purpose of his life is in this moment, yeah.
He realizes that. for sure.
And he realized.
I wish there were some paintings of people following John, because, you know, the people just adored him. And they came, so many people came and got baptized by John. He was the Christ.
I do have a lot of, I mean, there are a lot of Renaissance images of John's followers. And especially that moment when he points his followers towards Jesus. But there, yeah, he's not ignored.
Thinking of our little visitation 2 weeks ago. The story where they first meet each other and their mom.
Yeah.
And this is.
Yeah.
Lori, I noticed something.
Yeah,
The guy on the right, it looks like he's holding a quill and writing.
I noticed that.
Oh, yes.
yes.
He is,
So
isn't
it
he?
does
Not
seem
like an
Like he's recording this. Yeah.
So who would that be, I wonder?
I'm looking here in the guide, but it doesn't identify.
Maybe it's a self-portrait of the artist who used to be an illuminator.
Could be, good.
I don't know that he would put a halo around himself, though.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
Is it what, 700 years?
I mean, other people
before
might put a
No, I
halo
wouldn't
around
do
him, but
that.
he probably
Well,
wouldn't.
they had scribes then, you know, so.
But it could be one of the apostles.
Yeah.
And then on the left, one of the people is holding a cloak,
Yeah.
or it must be Jesus.
Oh, yeah, holding
And
his
then-
clothes
And
there.
then the
Yeah.
back one, what is that staff or whatever? Or is that just part of the hood?
This right here,
Yeah, right down there.
I'm not sure. It could be. Oh, no, it's an angel wing. These two are angels. holding-
Oh, so that's a wing, okay,
Yeah, holding Jesus' clothing here.
yeah.
Yes, that is. You can see the wings here.
Oh,
Yeah, there.
Yeah. Good point.
And is that Mary? Is that?
I'm guessing that this is Mary.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Well, because he's depicted Mary in that kind of rusty, sort of reddish color in the other things we've looked at.
Imagine living in yourself.
Yourself.
I think it would be, well, I don't know. I think it would be great if you,
I wonder though, with just like scripture that we hear over and over and
then,
over again.
yeah, like the salt of the earth.
Lots of
Yeah,
it's all the
yeah.
Same thing, but it'd be a spectacular.
So I am wondering if they moved them around a little bit, because there probably wasn't much in the cell beside the mural and a cot or, you know.
I once
Crucifix.
gifted one of my spiritual directors, who's a Benedictine nun, with an icon of Mary Magdalene. And that one got passed around throughout the whole group of women. Each one of them took it for a while and loved it and prayed with it, and then they pass it on to somebody else. I wonder if that same thing happened with the cells.
Yeah. We never know.
Of course, not this, because it's.
Or be angels. And the walls,
Yeah,
the full statues,
yeah.
Mary Magdalene and her anguish
Yes.
face. I sent you a copy of that picture,
Did you? When was that?
a year or so ago.
Oh, okay.
You've been there recently, Pete. Yeah.
Well, it's been a few years. It's just wonderful.
Look
And
at it.
it's, you can walk all the way around.
It's beautiful, beautiful.
He sat next to it at the map.
Right.
So what were you gonna say, Raymond?
I was saying, you made me think about the movement, right? It's coming down through there. You look at it from the bottom up. Everything falls back.
Oh.
That's like all the movement.
Yeah.
Oh, because it takes that left-hand turn and back further, it takes the right-hand turn. All of those.
Yeah, I just think it's
That is. the
amazing
direction
how
that
we-
Jordan is going.
the perspective of this.
With south, but it would be wrong, but.
Following the. And just looks.
Oh,
To see
yeah.
the expression.
Mhm. The clouds.
Yeah.
The circular aspect is like opening.
How many paintings are there?
There were 45 cells and there were 43 that had murals. And there's one row that he totally did himself, but he would start and his assistants finished some too. But I'm pretty sure this was on the corridor that he did the whole shebang. Yeah. But that's a lot of murals.
Yeah.
Complete.
And you probably loved everything.
Yes.
Well, there's one more, or is it?
Yes.
One more? Yes, yes. Okay.
So which monk can get a
I love this one.
Yeah. I did not
festival
touch-
yourself? And you punish the monk by putting it in the door.
Oh, the one, well, that's where, Sarah, no, how do you pronounce his name? Sarah Navarola cells were.
Oh,
And I guess they never got, maybe they were used for storage. And that's where he was, or that's where his remnants are. Those are his.
In this image, a lot of times, Jesus is kind of swishy. He's like, oh, don't touch me, you know?
Well, yeah.
In a way, his.
He hasn't
his
completely
legs
recovered.
are like mine are. I mean, this is his
Or
right.
Yeah, he's crossed his legs.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
got his legs.
that is not a
And
real
the right leg
realistic
on the
figure.
left.
but that's his scriptures. He said, do not touch me. I'm not. This is my father. And
Right.
he said that to
It's a funny cave. Too.
Yeah, see
The
that?
door like that.
Square stone gets rolled.
Yeah,
And this is Mary Magdalene.
Yeah.
So they had wood framing.
So what's he saying in this one? What's the spirit saying through?
What's the biblical text? When she discovers.
You just have to touch it.
yeah, do not touch
He
me.
said, are you the gardener?
Yeah.
What have you done with my savior? He said, it's me, Mary. And she said, oh, my Lord and Savior. He said, don't touch it.
Right. What's happening?
I haven't ascended to my father yet.
But she's between him and the door.
Oh, that's what he's got. I was like, what is he over his shoulder? But he's the gardener.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's his home.
so was he acting as the gardener? That's interesting thought.
So he is
He's a
much
gardener,
more
he-
ethereal than Mary Magdalene is much more of a solid figure with the drapes.
Yeah.
I can see his face, well, it looks almost aged.
Yeah. Yes.
He just died.
Oh,
Here it is for you. Yes, he does look. aged.
the entrance to the cave is like a typical house door. Open it. I mean, it was like it had, supposed to have a door on it and everything, so it's got the stop. See the knob down the right. Stop. And it's a typical door. With a threshold and all.
Just one of the things I'm seeing, there's the side of the cave above her head, and it's, you know, it's swooping up, and the trees are pointing up. Especially the two bigger ones. So it's like lifting up. Jesus is gonna be lifted up.
That, yeah. Yeah.
The one tree.
That's the real.
You see a lot of those.
Oh, there's Halo has a cross on it.
So I'm looking in the guidebook and the trees are just so much more detailed than what we can see from the screen.
Look on his face, it's just.
Gotta pick it up again. With that. Yeah. Which is interesting.
Well, that's interesting.
Do you have wood?
Alicia knows he still has the nail prints in his feet,
Yeah.
Yeah,
He still has one,
the nail prints in his feet.
but he's got, you know, the halo has a cross, is the cross.
That's
Well,
what
that-
happened to me too, did you notice that the nativity?
That's a unique halo. Just for Jesus.
But that's what he was wearing as a baby.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that was the same one, yep.
As well as the baptism, because it looks from here, like there's something going
See that?
through his head.
It's anticipating.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I guess it's a guard, a fence around
The artist.
the cave.
Yeah,
It's anticipating.
yeah, I think they
But it's
defined,
odd
I
that
think they would define the background for the photograph. It's even like the nativity scene, it was definitely something up front. That's it.
Okay,
That's it?
Well, I just wanted to tell you my experience. It was such a serene, spiritual experience to see these murals. It's just one of those moments in my life I'll never forget. So I'm glad I could share some of it with you. Yes, yes,
We didn't visit there.
yeah, yeah.
Did you have anything, new people? you want to add?
No, thank you very much, Holly. These have been, they are beautiful paintings. Thanks for bringing them to us. Yeah,
I was just, yeah, thank you, Holly. This, I've probably seen some of these before, but I didn't know that much about it. I found a site on the web that's called Web Gallery of Art. And it has quite a few of these on there, and then you can click on something that has some information. But they're good quality pictures. Like, it's not the exact same ones you were showing, but it's,
Oh, there are so many to choose from.
yeah, they don't have all the same ones you had, but
what's next week, Laura?
So next week, we're gonna look at contemporary
Oh,
religious
that's
art.
right.
And what I was thinking, you two, is would you each pick your favorite contemporary piece of art? Or maybe two, and then we'll share those. How's that sound?
That's terrific. I'll be also, send them to you and then.
Okay.
But yeah, that's great.
Define contemporary. No, really, no.
Well, a question.
What?
100 years or?
That would do it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that include architecture? Contemporary?
Contemporary architecture.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Well, this is about architecture.
Well, thank you all for contributing. I appreciate that.
Holly,
And I thank my friend Ann for coming
Holly,
too.
what's the definition of fresco?
It's, oh boy. Fresco is a mural on the wall, but it's a certain technique and I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, fresco.
It's
John,
painting on,
a fresco is the painting on the website.
But what's it made of?